Welcome everyone to my channel, and today we'll be talking about the illusion of freedom. The illusion of freedom. I came across this book. I'm not going to mention what it is, but I will give you the overview of this book. It's called The Illusion of Freedom: How America Fell While Citizens Watched TV. So the overview of this book says, How America Fell While Citizens Watched TV is a bold, unflinching critique of modern society's complacency and the hidden mechanism driving civil decline. The book argues that while citizens remain distracted by the endless noise of culture wars, digital surveillance, and streaming entertainment, systemic control and economic exploitation have quietly eroded true constitutional liberty. It peels away the veneer of modern comfort, presenting a diagnosis of a nation in slow motion crisis while its populace remains entertained and pacified. Isn't that what we're experiencing now? Yeah, we say we're free, but are we really free? Or we have the illusion of freedom? Oh yeah, we can go to Best Buy and get a 60-inch TV on credit. We can tweet against a certain leader, political office holder, and nothing happens to us. Yes, that's freedom. We can vote. We can choose our leaders, and we can reject others. That is freedom. Or, of course, we can live wherever we want to live. That is freedom. But let's take these one at a time and see if they're freedom or illusions. You can go to Best Buy and get 60-inch TV on credit. That's a loan. That's a debt. And after they've loaded you up with so much debt, you spend the rest of your life trying to pay them off. Instead of being free, you become a slave. And that's how the system wants it. The second is tweeting. Oh yeah, I can tweet against anyone and nothing's going to happen. But have you ever considered that's the little freedom they want to give you, but once you cross out a line, the invisible red line that they have created, you've been in a lot of trouble. So are you really free? Yeah, I can go and vote. I can vote for whomever I want to. But let's take a critical look at that. How many choices of parties do you really have? Just two mostly. Yeah, we have little other parties, but you never hear about them. The media puts out two main parties, the Republican Party and the Democratic Party. So you're restricted to whom you can vote for. And the choices are still the same choices. Yes, maybe 50 years ago, the Republicans were the ones talking about civil rights. But it's now the turn of the Democrats. Maybe 50 years ago, Republicans are busy talking about capitalism and making sure that they protect the business class. And the Democrats were talking about the working class. The roles have reversed, but still same choices, but just different parties. So where is the freedom that you're still giving the same choices, but coming from different directions? And let's just say you end up voting for your representative. He goes to Congress. Does it represent what you voted for? So are you really free? And what about, yes, I can live wherever I want to live. Let's take that critically too. Yes, you can live wherever you want to live as long as you can afford it. So the restriction comes in terms of how much financial muscle you have. So are you really free? And this erosion of freedom happens mostly in the states. They happen in the so-called laboratories of democracy. And they happen mostly in the back channels, in the counties where no one really pays attention. Let's take the example of Texas. We have big counties here. Many of those counties have no right to even exist. They don't produce anything. They don't have the money to survive. And so they have devised a way to survive. And that is incarcerations, arrests, fines, and fees. In other words, they've turned their citizens into human walking ATMs. You better pay it, because if you don't, your freedom will be taken away. In other words, they give you that freedom and they can take it away. So where is the freedom? It's an illusion. Let's talk about some of the enforcers of this illusion of freedom. The media. This is what it says here. The cable news, the viral internet trends, they all polarize and they distract us. They make us fight each other. And with this distraction, we lose our freedom. The comfort trap. This explores the idea that mass market entertainment, Netflix, and endless digital scrolling functions as a pacifier, numbing the public's desire to participate in or question civic life. The comfort trap. I drive a car. I have a house. Oh yeah, I go to McDonald's if I want to. I can eat in a fancy restaurant. So I am free. But you don't have the money. Oh yeah, I'll just use credit card. The illusion of freedom. What about technological control? The surveillance state. Corporate elites using algorithms to capture our attention. Do you know what is the biggest currency or the most expensive currency now in the world? You guessed it, it's attention. Attention is the biggest currency. It's not the dollar, it's not euro, it's not gold, it is attention. What about economic exploitation? How many of us can't afford to live today? How many of us cannot afford to send our kids to college? How many of us cannot afford the basic things of life? The system has made it so because the more you struggle, the more distracted you are from what the government is doing on your behalf. I mentioned some of the counties I know of in Texas. Many of these counties survive based on arrests, incarceration, fees, fines. They do not have major industries. More than 50% of their budget relies on these arrests, incarceration, fees, fines. And they tell you, no, we're doing this for public safety. And they show you the statistics. Look, crime is down. But that's great. If crime is down, why are the arrests still up? Shouldn't arrests be going down? Because they know they cannot do without arrests. They cannot do without the fines. They cannot do without incarceration. And in fact, many of these counties, many of them, when you are arrested, you are made to stay in the holding cell for at least 36 hours. There's a reason for that. They have calculated that that is the time they need to monetize you, to monetize your freedom. Your life is now in the stock exchange. Your life is now in the stock market. Your freedom is now being traded. And we're still distracted because there's a bill to be paid, car payments to be made, have to go on vacation. And we have this illusion of freedom. I came across this article written by a professor of law. He wrote it in the American Bar Association pages. And his article is titled, "The Economic Rights Components of Human Rights That We Abandoned." The economic rights component of human rights that we abandoned. And he writes, more than 75 years ago, in the aftermath of the atrocities of World War II, Eleanor Roosevelt led a coalition of global leaders to establish the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, codifying freedom across 5 categories: civil rights, political rights, social rights, cultural rights, and economic rights. We have grossly scaled back our commitments to this covenant, especially in the domain of economic rights. Our contemporary political economic consensus has worked hard to sever the UDHR understood as inseparable. The authentic civil, social, and political freedoms do not exist without economic rights. Freedom was never simply the protection of property in the absence of economic security. That narrow interpretation is designed to serve not the masses, but the interests of the wealthy, whose share of capital continues to accumulate and exclude others. Material resources are a necessary precondition for economic agency and for fully human life. This is important because it shows you that you cannot have freedom excluding economic rights. Yes, we're giving sprinkles of political rights, voting rights, civil rights. But underneath is economic rights. And if you don't have economic rights, all of those mean nothing. Have you wondered why the number of people who are voting now in the US keeps going down? It's because those people do not have time to go vote because they have to work and their bosses will not give them time to go vote. So why is it that they can't just make voting day a public holiday? Oh no, the least they don't want you to work. They don't want you to vote. They don't want you to vote. It's the illusion of freedom. Now let's look at economic rights. It's called rights without resources, especially in the legal side. You are told that you have due process. But what is due process if you cannot afford the representation? Oh yeah, they say they give you court-appointed lawyers. But court-appointed lawyers, who do they work for? You guessed it. The same government. So they have the incentive to want to keep you in the system. So you see the illusion of freedom that we think we have, we don't. And why is that so? Because we have given it away. Many of us walk around oblivious of what is going on around us, how our neighbors are being suppressed, how our neighbors are being victimized, how our neighbors are being exploited. You say, oh yeah, it's my neighbor, it's not me. But there's a rule. And that rule says that if one person is enslaved, all are enslaved. It's either I have freedom or no one has freedom, because we're linked together. Those same people that have lost their freedom, that you have looked away, they will someday become your neighbor. You see them at the Walmarts. You see them at the churches. You see them at your kids' football game. They'll be there. They're not going to be sent to the moon. They come back to the same society that you're in. You drive on the same roads as they do. Even if you behave like the British and establish a colony like they did with Australia, send all the criminals or whatever, or the terrible people to a certain place and keep them there. Eventually, they'll find their way back to you. After all, the Australians are amongst us now. This is the issue. The good professor continues. He says, wherever one falls on the spectrum between capitalism and socialism, do not lose sight of the point. People are the purpose of our economy. And the UDHR, which is Universal Declaration of Human Rights, made clear the role of government is to ensure that our children, families, and workers have adequate access to the quantity and quality of economic resources necessary to thrive, not merely to survive. This is the concept of the economic rights. And in the 21st century, these resources should affirmatively include housing, healthcare, banking, and financial services, reproductive autonomy, and agency in family formation, the right to unionize and collectively bargain, basic income, good jobs, a capital foundation, quality education from grade school through college, and the freedom to move through society without the threat of detention or bodily harm from state-sanctioned terror, because one's identity is linked to a stigmatized group. Recognizing them as such will correct the historical inadequacies of the human rights agenda. The system has its enforcers, and its enforcers come in different ways. All that the professors written here have been taken away because we let them. The enforcers will be law enforcement. That could be intelligence offices, intelligence agencies, the judiciary, the regulatory bodies. They are enforcers of the system that seeks to enslave us. Law enforcement, what laws are they enforcing? the good laws or the bad laws. Because take it, there are good laws and there are bad laws. Which are they enforcing? That is why I don't like those words, law enforcement. Because they are working for the same agencies that are trying to take your freedoms away. They enforce the laws. That means the good and the bad laws. I prefer community policing. It's more inviting. It's more real because they work for the people. So what are we going to do about this? Where are we going? What are we doing? We are a community. Yes, there's individual freedom, as you want to call it, the individualism of America. But we forget when you say you are a citizen of the United States, you are saying you are an employee of a corporation because America is a corporation. You are an employee. And employees have gradations. Those on the C-suites, the CEO, CFO, the COO, the chief customer officer. Those are the high echelon of the corporation. Then going down will be the directors, and the managers, the supervisors, and the low workers. So let's not get it twisted. We're working for a corporation, and the corporation wants their time. The time must be put in. You get distracted, they'll pull you back. They need their time from you. But we have the power. When I see a law enforcement officer, I see the beautiful sparkling cars that they drive. I say, I paid for that. I see the helmets that they're wearing and I say, I also paid for that. I see their uniform, dry cleaned, well pressed. I say, I paid for that. Their hair, well maintained. I say, I pay for that. The gun that they have or the taser and their beautiful shoes. And I say, I also pay for that. So in fact, I own a piece of that law enforcer. So why are they not working for me? It's because we've given it away. We've given our freedoms away. How long? How long can we continue with this? How long can we get distracted? We're ready for the Avengers movies. That's another distraction. I have nothing wrong with Avengers movies or going to the movies. But let's keep our eyes on the ball. And like Tyrion in the Game of Thrones says, you are in the great game now, and the great game is terrifying. You're in the great game now, and you now know you are in a game, and you have the right to choose your hand. You have the freedom to create your direction. We're in the great game, a game that we must win. Otherwise, it will enslave us all. Please share your comment, subscribe to my channel, and hit the like button. I'll see you next time.